The work of the census officers affects everyone. As well as being responsible for the registration of births, marriages and deaths, the census officers produce and publish a broad range of reports covering health, social, economic and business issues. The officers also conduct the population census. The most recent census was on the 29th of April this year. The census gives a unique opportunity not only to count every person and household in the UK at the same time, but it also gathers essential information on many different aspects of our national makeup, such as the age, sex, and the ethnic composition of our population. This information is used by government, local authorities, health authorities, commercial business and other bodies to plan and fund services to meet the needs of our population. Services like nurseries, schools and colleges, clinics and hospitals, provision of care for the elderly and those with special needs. It'll identify future housing needs, transport and employment issues. Therefore, the data from the census has to be precise and reliable. The aim of the census officers is to achieve a 100% count of the population. In the previous census in 1991, a response rate of around 98% was achieved, but certain groups of people were missed from the count. The people most likely to be missed are the very groups of people whose future needs have to be known about and planned. Babies, the elderly, young men, travellers, people who've moved house since census day, and people serving in the armed forces. Questions on our survey forms have been designed to find these types of people. Carrying out a full census is a highly complex operation involving around 24 million households, and there's no opportunity for a second chance. After a census, it's usual to revisit a sample of households to ask again a few of the key questions from the census form. This simple interview assesses the extent to which people were not included or households missed altogether. The value of your work on the survey can't be underestimated. Thousands of millions of pounds of public money are distributed on the strength of the information gathered by the census. As interviewers charged with the task of revisiting and interviewing a member of every household in your area, your role is vital to the overall success of the census. Some of you may have been involved in previous censuses and feel perfectly happy knocking on people's doors and chatting to them on their doorstep. But equally, maybe some of you feel just a bit nervous about doing this. There's really no need to be. The training you'll receive will give you all the confidence and information you need to do this job and become a valued member of the team. And if it's any comfort to you, you're not the first ones to be a little apprehensive.
I thought the job would be interesting work. It's a chance to meet people, a chance to do something useful.
The training that was provided was very helpful. I don't feel I could have done the job without that. It gave me the confidence to go out and do the interviews and face any different scenario, however bad, and we never ever got anything nearly as bad as the worst training.
It was a revelation really to find that so many people were so cooperative, because clearly you're apprehensive before you start this exercise, but in fact the vast majority of people are very cooperative.
The best part was meeting the people and explaining to them the purpose of it all, you know, how important it was.
The people we've just heard from are just like you. Most had no previous formal interview training, but they found the work varied, interesting, and very worthwhile. The first stage of your work will involve visiting your allocated postcodes, checking the boundaries, and making a complete list of every property and address within it. By visiting every household within a postcode, the census office will be able to compare the survey results with the census returns. Then they can work out if any person or household has been missed. The key to a comprehensive listing of properties is to work systematically through the area. Once you've planned your route, try to stick to it. Using your map as a starting point, you should locate and identify the exact territory which makes up the postcode area and where the boundaries are. The boundaries that are marked on the map will only give you a rough indication of where the area begins and ends. The only way to be truly sure of which properties are within your postcode and which fall outside it is to ring the bell and ask. The information on your map may not be right up to date. Things might have changed. What appears on your map as wasteland could now be a new housing development. Or it could be that a row of houses clearly visible on your map no longer exists. Again, you need to check. You will have been allocated a number of postcodes. A separate property listing sheet should be used for each one. This details every address and household in the postcode. This list should include all properties in your area, including residential, non-residential and vacant properties. Look out for residential premises above shops or behind commercial buildings, caravans, temporary homes and accommodation for caretakers, for example. Ask neighbours or employees if in doubt. If you do make contact with a householder whilst listing properties, take the opportunity to carry out the interview there and then or fix up a suitable appointment with them. You might not get the chance to speak to them again. You'll need to deliver an advance notification card to alert householders to the purpose of the survey and to tell them you're coming. The card should be delivered as you list and confirm the properties in your area. Your team manager will arrange to visit you in the field early on in your work to check on your progress and to make sure that everything's going smoothly. Your team manager is there to help and advise you. If you do experience a problem about your job or your area, don't bottle it up. Talk to your manager straight away. They'll be able to advise how best to resolve it. After each day's work, spend a small amount of time bringing your paperwork up to date. You'll need to review your property listing and ensure there is a new listing sheet for each postcode. At the end of the second day, you should have listed all the properties in your allocated postcodes. You'll need to phone in a progress report to your team manager at the end of day 2, that's Friday the 25th of May. This report should detail the amount and types of properties found and record the number of interviews you've achieved so far. Please remember, you should establish beyond doubt the types of property found before ticking the appropriate box on the listing sheet.
Clipboard, forms, show card, prompt card, official letters, appointment card and black pens. Authority card. Great. Good morning. My name is Frances Turner from the census office. I delivered a card to say that we're carrying out a census coverage survey in your area. Could you spare a few minutes of your time for a short doorstep interview, please?
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. May I take your postcode, please?
Yes, it's SO155RR.
And your address?
It's 77 Melville Road.
Now, all the questions I will ask you refer back to Census Day, Sunday the 29th of April. I will be asking you about the people who share either a living room or a sitting room or at least one meal a day with you. We call this group of people a household. Was anybody in your household living here on Census Day?
Yes, we were.
This card will help you to answer some of the questions I'm going to ask. Now, from this list, what type of accommodation does your household occupy?
The house is semi-detached.
And is your household accommodation self-contained? That means that all the rooms, including the kitchen, bathroom and toilet, are behind a door that only your household can use?
Yes, it is self-contained.
And does your household own or rent the accommodation?
Well, it'd be nice if the answer was owned outright, but I'm afraid it's mortgaged.
I know the feeling. Right, over the page already. Now, thinking back to Census Day, Sunday the 29th of April, how many people usually lived here? Now, please include any students away in term time, people working away from home, people in hospital for less than 6 months, and anyone else with no other permanent address.
3 people. Myself, my husband and our daughter.
I need to be sure, has any of these people moved in since Census Day?
No.
Were all of you sharing a living room or sitting room or at least one meal a day?
Yes, we were.
Can I have the names of these people?
I'm Susan Ryder. Then there's my husband, David.
Is that Ryder with R-Y?
R-I.
R-I.
And my daughter, Jennifer.
David. Jennifer. And can I just check, are David and Jennifer's surnames Ryder also?
Yes, they are.
Right. Now, I'm recording you as female,
Yes, I'm definitely female.
and David is male, and Jennifer is female.
Yes, that's right.
Now, again, from the card on the other side, which of these was your marital status on 29th of April this year?
Married. I'm married. First marriage. Hopefully the last.
And David?
She's the same.
First marriage also.
Mhm.
And Jennifer's marital status?
Well, she's single. She's only 5. She does have a wee boyfriend though.
Now, can I ask, what relationship are David and Jennifer to you?
David's my husband and Jennifer is my daughter.
And what relationship is Jennifer to David?
She's his daughter too.
Now, could I take your dates of birth, please? Firstly, yourself.
13th October 1966.
And David's?
He's the 12th of March 65.
And Jennifer?
Jennifer's 1st of July 95.
5. Now, were you a student in full-time education on 29th of April this year?
No.
And what about David?
Well, he sometimes acts like it, but no, he's not a student.
And what about Jennifer?
Yes, this is her first year of full-time school.
Hope she's enjoying it.
Yeah, she loves it.
Did she live at this address during the school term on 29th of April this year?
Yeah, she lives here with us.
Right. Now, from the next list, which of these is your ethnic group?
White Irish.
Right. And what would be David and Jennifer's ethnic group?
They're both white Irish too.
Irish. Now, from this list, can you tell me which of these activities were you doing in the week from the 23rd of April to the 29th of April? I can record more than one if that's appropriate.
I was working part-time and I suppose I was also looking after home and family, yeah.
Right. And what about David?
He was working full-time.
Right. And anything else from the list?
No.
Right. Now, I don't need to record an answer for Jennifer for this question. Was this your usual address on the 29th of April last year?
Yes, we were all here.
Right, almost finished. Now, it's very important that no one gets missed in the census. So, other than the people already listed here, was there anyone else who on census day was working away?
No.
In the armed forces? In hospital or a residential home?
No.
Away on holiday?
No.
At university or boarding school? Right. Is there another address where yourself or someone in your household may also have been included on a census form?
No, we're all just here.
Is there any other living accommodation at this address? For example, a granny annex or a bedsit?
No, there's just our family.
Sometimes my office checks to see if people have been interviewed correctly. Can I take your telephone number in case they want to speak to you?
Yeah, no problem. It's 02830 654 231.
Well, that's just about it, Mrs. Ryder. Thank you very much for your time. Your help's been much appreciated.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
So, the respondent was an adult household member. I need to cross through the address and put the form number on the property listing sheet.
The interview we just witnessed was relaxed and efficient. The interviewer was organised and friendly. She explained why she had called and probed for other households and other residents and checked that they hadn't moved in since Census Day. She asked the questions accurately and used the show card. The interviewer began by directing the householder to the answers. You probably won't have to do this for the whole of the interview. Most respondents will see a pattern emerging and will be able to anticipate. She didn't try to influence the householder, and she made no assumptions. She allowed the householder to respond to every question. Some of the questions may seem inappropriate, such as the male-female question, but it's perfectly feasible that a name could be misleading, or that grown-up children still living at home have a marital status other than single. You need to ask the questions in the right way because you can't know for sure what the situation is. When it comes to the activity question, this only applies to over 16s.
Okie dokie, who's next? Ah, that one. Hi there, my name's Jim. I've come to ask you a few questions, if that's okay.
What about?
About the recent census form you filled out?
Oh yeah, I remember. Is there a problem?
Well, that's why I've come, to carry out an official interview with you.
What, now? Oh, well, it was just about...
Oh, go on, please.
All right, then.
My winning smile does it again. Now, what's your name?
Alan Castles.
Now, Alan, I'm supposed to hand you a card at this point to help with the answers, but I've lost it in my bag somewhere, so I'll just hammer on. Your house is mid-terraced. Oh, it's a bit on the small side, so it must be self-contained. Is it rented?
No, we own it.
You bought this? Well, as long as you like it, that's the important thing, isn't it? Are you married, Alan?
Yes, I've been very happily married for 25 years, thank you.
Just think, if you killed her on your honeymoon, you'd be a free man by now. This is all going very well. It helps when you can get a good rapport going. You're obviously white and male, unless you're a female with a serious facial body hair problem. What's your date of birth, Alan?
It's the 10th of July, 1948.
Now, what were you up to in April then?
I don't understand. What do you mean?
Well, are you on the dole in full-time education or were you working?
Oh, I was working. Well, I was at work.
And your little lady, what's her name? And if you don't mind me asking, her age. I know women of a certain age are a bit touchy about it, aren't they?
Her name's Susan. And her date of birth is the 12th of January, 1948.
Is she white?
Yes, she is.
And what were her whereabouts from the 19th to the 25th of April this year?
She was at work too.
Well, Alan, that's it. Thank you very much for all your help.
Goodbye.
Oh, just one more thing, the postcode.
It's BR15 8JH.
Not BR158JF?
No.
Would you believe it? I didn't need to interview you. You're not in my area. Never mind. Bye.
Dear, oh dear. That encounter, you couldn't call it an interview, just went from bad to worse. And most householders would have ended it long before the very tolerant Alan did. Jim's interview techniques may have been amusing to us, but in a real situation, they would have been disastrous. But by practicing your doorstep routines before you go out for the first time, following instructions and asking the correct questions, you won't make the same mistakes. We all know how important first impressions are. In those first few seconds, what we say and how we act will influence how people react to us. So making a good first impression on the doorstep is vitally important. You may only have a few moments to convince a householder to give you an interview. In that time, you have to adapt your technique and manner to suit. Let's now take a look at a few common encounters. They show how, by anticipating and reacting to different doorstep situations, you can get households to cooperate.
Hello, my name's Alice Brown from the census office. I delivered a card to say we're carrying out a census coverage survey in your area. Could you please spare me a few minutes of your time for a short doorstep interview? Are you in the middle of things?
Oh, this. She's napping, just trying to tidy up a bit before she wakes up again.
It's never ending, isn't it? Would you prefer me to call back later?
What are the questions about?
The questions are very simple. They're about your home and about the people who usually live here.
What's it for?
By taking part, you'll help us measure how well the census has counted everybody.
How long will it take? She's due to wake up again soon.
It'll only take a few minutes and I'll do all the writing.
OK then, give me a minute, I'll get rid of this first.
By quickly establishing a rapport with the householder, the interviewer was able to turn the situation to her advantage. When our householder opened the door, she was greeted by a suitably dressed, friendly interviewer. The householder was made clearly aware that the interviewer was determined. The interview could either happen here and now or at an appointed time. The interviewer used positive, assertive language. She kept her explanations short and easily understood and empathized with the respondent.
Who is it?
Hello, my name's Alice Brown from the census office. Would you like me to hold my identity card to the letterbox?
Oh yes, please.
I delivered a card to say we're carrying out a census coverage survey in the area. Could you please spare me a few minutes of your time for a short doorstep interview?
I filled out a census form and sent it back. Did I fill it out wrong?
I'm sure you filled it in fine, but it's important that we revisit a number of households to do a confidential interview to check how well the procedures worked.
Where did you say you were from?
I'm from the census office.
Oh, I see.
The interview will only take a few minutes. Are you happy to do it now?
Yes, hold on. I'm sorry about that. You just can't be too careful.
Please don't apologise. You're absolutely right to take sensible precautions. Now, may I take your postcode?
Some householders may be nervous of callers. They may need some gentle reassurance about who you are, where you're from, and why you've come to speak to them.
Yes? Hello. Sorry to bother you. I'm not selling or promoting anything. My name's Alice Brown from the census office. I delivered a card to say we're carrying out a census coverage survey in your area. Could you please spare me a few minutes of your time for a short doorstep interview?
I won't go on a mailing list, will I? You won't send me lots of junk mail. Will I be targeted for something?
Absolutely not. All the information you give is strictly confidential. Once we process the data, the form will be destroyed.
As interviewers, you have to be quick and effective to get your message across. Be direct. Use appropriate language. Make sure the householder understands clearly why you've come. You have an important job to do. Make sure the householder knows it.
Excuse me. My name's Alice Brown from the census office. Do you live here?
I do, yes. Can I help you?
I delivered a card to say we're carrying out a census coverage survey in this area. Could you please spare me a few minutes of your time for a short doorstep interview?
Well, I vaguely remember seeing a card. The logo looks familiar. I didn't read it, though.
Well, basically what it says is the office needs to know how well the recent census has worked. We're asking people in this area to help us by answering a few questions.
I'm sorry, look, I'm really not feeling good. I've just come home early from work. Well, do you want to do it now?
Well, we could do it now, or I could come back later today.
Well, will it take long? Because if I don't take a couple of paracetamol soon and lie down...
The interview should only take a few minutes, but if you're really not well, I could make an appointment to call back later.
No, I'm exaggerating. We'll do it now.
Thank you. May I take your postcode?
Some respondents may not feel up to giving you an interview when you call. Some may only need gentle persuasion to agree a quick interview. In other cases, it's best to agree a time to come back. Put yourself in their shoes. Use your judgment, but don't be pushy. Sometimes a householder may be slow in coming to the door. They may be infirm, or on the phone, or they might be in the toilet. So try to be patient. Wait a few minutes before moving on. Another common reason why people don't answer straight away is that the doorbell simply doesn't work. Try knocking on the second try. You'll be amazed at how effective this is. You may arrive at properties where you know someone is in, but they just won't answer the door. Make a note of the date and time of your call on the listing sheet and try again another day. There may be a different member of the household home who is willing to answer the door. You should keep on attempting to make contact, varying your call times throughout the day. Advice on when you're likely to make contact is in your instructions under Calling Strategy. If you still don't get a response, discuss the situation with your team manager. You'll come across properties that can only be entered via an intercom system. These require additional persuasive skills as you're not dealing with a person face to face. Try to avoid conducting an interview through the machine. You need to see the respondent in order for them to use the show card. You must remember to smile when talking into the machine, as this lightens your voice. Some properties will be warden assisted. Make contact with the warden first. This should help you gain easier access to the other residents.
Hello, my name's Alice Brown from the census office. I delivered a card to say we're carrying out a census coverage survey in the area. Could you please spare me a few minutes of your time for a short doorstep interview?
Oh, yes. How long would it take?
About 5 minutes.
Do you need to come up?
Well, it does need to be a face-to-face interview, as I have a card to help you with possible answers, and it would be easier and quicker than using this machine.
I'll buzz you up then. I'm on the second floor on the right.
Thank you.
In a few cases, having done the hard work and got the interview, you may find a respondent won't take the response card from you. There might be many reasons for this, the most obvious being they can't read very well. So be discreet. Explain the answers should match those on the card. In such cases, you could offer to read out all the possible answers to them. There are many different cultures living in Britain today, and you may come across householders who don't understand English. So how do you overcome this? Often, there'll be a member of the household who does speak English and who'll be able to act as an interpreter.
Hello, my name is Jessie Green from the census office. I delivered a card to say we're carrying out a census coverage survey in your area. Can you spare me a few minutes of your time for a short doorstep interview?
Subhi bete.
Anji Nani. Hello, my name is Jessie Green from the census office. We're carrying out a census coverage survey in your area. Is there an English-speaking adult in your house?
No, at the moment.
Can you ask your grandmother if I can carry out a short doorstep interview with her, but have you act as interpreter?
नानी ए बंदा थानू सवाल पूछना है दराजा दे विच मैं थानू समझा दांगी ए बंदा की कहंदा है अच्छा
Here's a card which shows some of the questions I'm going to ask with possible responses to them. It should help us through the interview. May I take your postcode, please?
The interviewer used her discretion in deciding to interview using a child as a go-between. Anyone over 14 will probably be okay. It's up to you to decide whether or not to proceed. You must obtain permission from the householder if you choose to do this. If you feel the child is too young, try and arrange an appointment with an older person. If you find that no English at all is spoken and there is no one else in the house who speaks English, your key task here is to find out which language the householder speaks.
Hello, my name is Jessie Green from the census office. I delivered a card to say we're carrying out a census coverage survey in your area. Could you spare me a few minutes of your time for a short doorstep interview?
No English.
Oh, don't worry. Could you point to your language on this card?
Yes.
Thank you. And I'll call again. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
The interviewer used the language identification card to try and establish the householder's language. The identity of the language should be noted on your property listing sheet. You'll need this if an interpreter proves necessary. Discuss the situation with your team manager. If together you decide that an interpreter is required, they'll arrange this for you. You should conduct the interview through the interpreter to ensure that the interview is done correctly. Naturally, conducting an interview through an interpreter will take longer. Please be patient. It's essential that everyone is included in the survey. A multi-occupied building is one which was originally intended for a single household and now provides accommodation for a number of different households. It may or may not have undergone alterations. It's important to remember a household is defined as one person living alone or a group of people, not necessarily related, who share either a living room or sitting room or at least one meal a day. Remember, it's important to find and interview every household in every building.
Hello, my name is Neville Barber from the Census Office. Now, I delivered a card to say that we were carrying out a census coverage survey in your area. Could you spare a few moments of your time for a short doorstep interview?
Yes, fine.
May I take your postcode, please?
Yes, it's PO 24 6PL.
And, of course, your address?
5 India Street.
Yeah. Now, all the questions I will ask you refer back to Census Day, Sunday the 29th of April. I'll be asking you about the people who share either a living room or a sitting room or at least one meal a day with you. Now, we call this group of people a household.
Well, I live here with someone else, but we don't eat together and I don't use the living room.
Oh, well, that means you are separate households. I'll have to fill in separate form for the other person. So would you bear with me for a moment and then we'll get back to your interview? All right. Back to your interview. Now, was anybody in your household living here on Census Day?
Just me, in my little room.
Mm-hmm. And what type of accommodation does your household occupy?
It's a 2-bedroom flat, part of a converted house.
Now, is your household's accommodation self-contained? I mean, that means that all the rooms, including the kitchen, bathroom and toilet, are behind a door which only your household can use.
I guess not, because I share a bathroom and a toilet with Paula.
Now, does your household own or rent the accommodation?
Well, I lodge here, but Paula owns the flat, and I pay rent to Paula.
And from the card, who is the landlord?
Private landlord.
Now, thinking back to Census Day, Sunday the 29th of April, you said you were the only one living here, is that correct?
Yes.
No students away in term time? People working away from home? People in hospital for less than 6 months? Or anyone with no other permanent address?
No.
Now, I need to be sure no one has moved in since Census Day?
No.
No. Now, can I have your name, please?
Yes, it's Sarah Jones.
I'm recording you as female. Now, just a final check. Was there anyone else who on Census Day was working away?
Well, Paula's boyfriend lives here, but he works away.
Oh, I see. Well, I'll tick no, because he's not part of your household. Now, was there anyone who on Census Day was in the armed forces?
No.
In hospital or residential home?
No.
Away on a holiday?
No.
At university or boarding school?
No.
And was there another address where yourself or someone in your household may also be included in the census form?
No.
No. Is there any other living accommodation at this address?
I'm not sure what you mean. This is a 2-bedroom flat, but there are 2 other flats above this one.
Can you tell me where their front doors are, please?
Yes, there's an outside door round the back.
Now, sometimes my office checks just to see if people have been interviewed correctly. Now, can I take your telephone number in case they want to speak to you?
Yes, it's 021 800 6000.
While I'm here, Is Paula at home now, or is there a time when I might be able to speak to her?
She's at work right now, but she should be home around 6ish.
Well, thank you. You've been very helpful. Thank you for your time. Goodbye.
That's okay. Bye.
By diligently probing, the interviewer has discovered additional households and addresses. He will add these to his property listing sheet. We see him adding the 2 additional flats. He'll visit these next to try and make contact and deliver advance notification cards. Next, he completes the form number on the listing sheet for the address he has just interviewed. An extra entry needs to be placed on the property listing sheet for the newly identified household. He's already made a note saying this is an additional household found at this address that needs to be interviewed and that there are 2 people living there. For the most part, householders you call upon will be happy to take part either right there and then or at a mutually convenient time. But some householders might be evasive or reluctant. Participating in the survey is voluntary, so you may need to use your persuasive skills to convince as many households as possible to take part. Most people's reluctance can be overcome by explaining and emphasizing the importance of the survey, or calling back again at a different time.
Oh, good evening. My name's David Watts. I'm from the census office.
All right.
I delivered a card to say that we're carrying out a census coverage survey in this area. Now, do you have a few moments of your time for a quick doorstep interview?
Oh, I don't do door-to-door surveys.
Oh, well, this isn't a consumer survey. This is a survey, a confidential survey commissioned by the government. We are gathering information to improve the census. Now, I have here a letter of explanation.
Do you want to know lots of personal stuff?
Well, would you like to see the subjects that we'll be talking about?
Can you get this information from somewhere else? Only I really don't like giving out personal details like this.
No, we need to talk to every householder in this postcode in order to get a true reflection of all the people and the households in this area.
Can I take a copy of the form and I'll have a think about it?
No, I'm afraid I can't do that. You see, it has to be a face-to-face interview. But it's very quick, and I do all the writing.
Well, if you want to know lots of personal details, then I definitely don't want to do it.
Well, why don't we make a start, eh? And if you come across a question you don't like, well, I'll skip over it.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Right.
Now, could I have your postcode, please?
It's BH22.
Hi.
Hello, my name's David Watts.
I'm
from
sorry.
The,
This is not a good time. I'm really sorry. I have a flooded kitchen and a leaking washing machine.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Can I leave a letter to explain why I've called, and I'll come back again tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night's no good. I have college tomorrow night.
But how about Wednesday then?
Yep, fine. Wednesday.
Oh, 7 o'clock?
7. I'll be back by 7.
All right then. But you go and attend to your kitchen, and I'll pop a card through the letterbox to confirm the appointment.
Okay, that's smashing. Look, I'm really sorry about this. I don't mean to be rude.
Oh, that's all right. Not to worry. I hope you haven't got too much damage.
Okay then. Thank you. Bye.
Yes?
Good evening, sir. My name's David Watts, and I'm from the census office.
And what do you want?
Well, I delivered a card to say that we're carrying out a census coverage survey in this area. Now, do you have a few minutes of your time for a little interview?
No, I have to get to work.
Well, it's only a few questions. It won't take long, or perhaps I could come back later.
I said no, okay?
Right. Is there someone else in the house I could speak to?
My wife's not back from work, and when she does get back from work, she has other things to do, and there's nobody else. Now, I said no, so...
Thank you very much. Well, that wasn't great, was it? I caught him in a bad time. But at least I know he works. At least I know he's married, his wife works, and there's only 2 people living here. As he wasn't happy to answer questions at the moment, one of us can come back later in a couple of days. Might even speak with his wife.
You can learn a lot, even from reluctant householders. David kept cool and maintained a friendly attitude when faced with householders who really didn't want to know, and he did his best to persuade them. He achieved one interview, one appointment, and he'll return to the third household for another try. At the most difficult household, he listened to the responses and managed to gather several important facts. Often revisiting a property at a different time will result in a successful interview. The average UK household consists of less than 3 people, all of whom fit neatly onto one page of the questionnaire. But during the course of your interviews, you may come across much larger households, especially if there are a lot of students in your area. When a respondent has to tell you about a large number of people, it can be tricky recording the information correctly. So you may need to adapt how you ask the questions. And if you're not sure of the answers, don't be afraid to check the details.
All the questions I will ask you refer back to Census Day on Sunday the 29th of April. I'll be asking you about the people who share a living room or a sitting room or at least one meal a day with you. We call this group of people a household.
Well, there's a lot of us here, but we do all eat together.
Oh, in that case, you're one household. Thinking back to Census Day, Sunday the 29th of April, how many people usually lived here? Oh, please include any students away in term time, people working away from home, people in hospital for less than 6 months, and anyone else with no other permanent address.
Well, there's 7 of us. Do you want me to go through all the names?
Yes, please. But before you start, I need to be sure. Have any of these people moved in since Census Day?
No, we were all here then.
So, thinking just of the people living here on Census Day, were you all sharing a living room or sitting room or at least one meal a day?
Yes, everyone was. That is, except Connie, who's at university.
Can I have the names of these people, please?
Oh, okay. I'm George. George Rowley.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's Sheila.
Mm-hmm.
Grace.
Yes?
Francis. Debbie.
Mm-hmm.
Connie. And Leanne.
And can I have everyone's surname, please?
Okay. Well, the Rowleys are Sheila.
Mm-hmm.
Debbie.
Mm-hmm.
Connie. And Leanne.
Yeah.
Grace's surname is Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
And Francis' surname is Trotter.
If we can move on now to the next 3 over the page, starting with Francis.
Nearly halfway there now.
Is Francis male or female?
He's male.
And am I correct in recording Debbie and Connie as female?
Yes, they're both girls.
And can you tell me Francis' marital status on the 29th of April?
He's separated. That's why he's staying here.
And can you tell me Debbie's marital status?
Single.
Never married?
Oh, that's right.
And Connie's marital status?
She's single. Very career-minded is Connie.
And from the list, how would you best describe Francis' relationship to you?
He's my stepson. Sheila's son from her first marriage.
Sheila. She's person number 2. So, Francis is Sheila's son.
Yeah, that's right.
And how would you describe Francis' relationship to Grace?
She's his gran.
So, Francis is her grandchild.
I suppose so. I never think of him like that. He's a bit too big to be bounced on her knee.
And what is Connie's relationship to you?
She's my daughter.
And her relationship to Francis?
Don't you mean to Sheila?
No, the relationship question changes on person 6. I need to know her relationship to you and to the 2 people listed immediately before her, who are Francis and Debbie.
Okay. Well, she's Francis' stepsister.
Yes.
And Debbie's sister.
Now, Connie's the full-time student you mentioned.
Yes, she's at university.
And is this the time address?
No, she's studying in London. She only comes back here at holidays or when she needs something.
Oh, well, I don't need to record any more about Connie. She'll be covered at her university address. So, moving on now to Leanne.
Hurrah! The last one. Honestly, sometimes it feels like Piccadilly Circus in here.
I know what you mean. Is Leanne male or female?
She's a smashing little lass.
And I also have to ask about her marital status on the 29th of April this year.
Oh, she's still single, and if she's got any sense, she'll stay that way.
And how would you describe Leanne's relationship to yourself?
I'm a granddad. A very proud one at that.
And her relationship to Debbie?
Debbie's a mum.
Right. And her relationship to Connie?
Aunt. No, niece. You know what I mean. Gets confusing, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. So, she's her niece.
Larger households can, at first, appear daunting, but by working through the names systematically, you'll avoid missing something. List names first, and check back with the respondent at the end so you don't miss anyone. Don't be afraid to ask if one of the answers is unclear, for example, about relationships to one another. Be patient and be prepared to spend a bit of time collecting all the data. Be aware that respondents may anticipate what you're about to ask. Either record the answer there and then, or ask the question again when you get to the relevant section. Everyone in the household will be recorded as having a relationship with person 1. Up until person 6, there'll be a relationship to all previously named household members. At person 6, this changes to a relationship only to person 1 and the 2 previous persons, for example, persons 1, 4 and 5. And so on. Always remember to check the relationship question, column 4 on the form. If there are more than 9 members in the household, you'll need to use a continuation form. Remember to copy the identification codes from the first form over to the continuation form and complete the continuation form boxes on the main form. What we're about to see now is an interview being carried out with a householder. During the course of the interview, the interviewer makes 10 crucial mistakes. Write down the errors you spot.
Hello, my name's Gordon Walker. I'm from the census office. I delivered a card to say that we were carrying out a census coverage survey in your area. Could you spare a few minutes of your time for a short doorstep interview?
Yeah, that's fine.
Could I take your postcode first, please?
Yes, it's LN13 7GB.
And your address?
3 Lincoln Avenue.
Was anybody in your household living here on Census Day, Sunday the 29th of April?
Yeah, we've all been here a couple of years now.
Can I give you this card? It'll help us get through the interview quickly. What type of accommodation does your household occupy?
End of terrace.
Is your household's accommodation self-contained? This means that all rooms, including kitchen, bathroom and toilet, are behind a door that only your household can use.
That's right, it is, yes.
Does your household own or rent the accommodation?
Yeah, it's rented.
Thinking back to Census Day, Sunday the 29th of April, how many people usually lived here? Please include any students away in term time, people working away from home, people in hospital for less than 6 months, and anyone else with no permanent address.
There are 4 of us.
Now, I need to be sure, has any of these people moved in since Census Day?
No.
So, thinking just of the people living here on Census Day, were you all sharing a living room, sitting room, or at least 1 meal a day?
Yes, we were.
Can I have the names of these people, please, starting with your own?
Well, I'm James Turner, and this is my wife, Jane, and my sons, Jason and Justin.
Jason. And Justin. Thank you. Right, now I'm required to check. Am I right to record you as male?
Yeah, you're right, I'm male.
And Jane as a female and Jason as a male?
Yes.
Can I refer you back to the card? What was your marital status on the 29th of April this year?
They're married.
Is this your first marriage or are you remarried?
First marriage.
What is Jane's marital status?
She's married too.
And Jason's?
Single.
Right. And what is Jane and Jason's relationship to you?
Jane's my wife and Jason's my son.
Right. Can I have your date of birth, please?
4th of May, 1954.
And Jane's date of birth, please?
Oh, well, I know this one because she's got exactly the same birthday, but she's 2 years younger.
Oh, that's unusual. So that'll be the 4th of May, 1956.
Right.
And Jason's?
23rd of September, 1985.
There's lots of people with the same birthdays around here. There's you and your wife, and Mrs. Jones, her daughter at number 100. She's got the same birthday as your son. Were you a student in full-time education on the 29th of April this year?
No.
And your wife, was she?
No.
And Jason, was he a school child in full-time education on the 29th of April?
Yes, he was.
Yes. Right. If I could ask you to refer back to the card, what is your ethnic group?
Well, white, British. Look, this is taking a bit longer than I was expecting. Is it going to be much longer?
No, there's just a couple more questions. Jane, what is her ethnic group and Jason's?
They're both white British.
Right, again, if I could ask you to refer back to the card, what activities were you taking part in during the week of the 23rd to 29th of April this year? I can record more than one activity if that's appropriate.
Oh, okay, well, I'm currently unemployed, so I suppose I was looking for work and looking after the home.
And Jane's activities, what was she doing?
Working full-time and running the home as well.
Right. And Jason?
Student.
Nearly finished. Was this your usual address on the 29th of April last year?
No, like I say, we've all been here a couple of years now.
Right, and just the back page now. Other than the people already listed, was there anyone else who on census day was working away, in the armed forces, in hospital or residential home, away on holiday, at university or boarding school? Is there any other address where yourself or someone in your household may also have been included on the census form? Is there any other living accommodation at this address?
Well, we've got a granny annex, but it's empty at the moment.
Sometimes my office checks to see if people have been interviewed correctly. Can I take your telephone number just in case they want to speak to you?
I'd rather not. We're extra rich if you don't mind.
OK, well, that's me finished. Okay. Thank you very much for sparing the time.
No problem.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Well, how many did you spot? None? A few? All of them? Let's take a look at it again, and this time I'll talk you through the mistakes.
May I take your postcode first, please?
Yes, it's LN13 7GB.
And your address?
3 Lincoln Avenue.
Was anybody in your household living here on Census Day, Sunday the 29th of April?
Yeah.
The interviewer did not provide the census definition of a household.
Does your household own or rent the accommodation?
Yeah, it's rented.
The interviewer forgot to ask who the householder rented his house from.
Well, I'm James Turner, and this is my wife, Jane, and my sons, Jason and Justin.
The interviewer failed to read back the names of those in the household and to check, tactfully, if all the surnames were the same. When people reel off a list of names, it's all too easy to forget or miss one of them in the rush to write them all down, so it's important to check back with the householder.
Thank you. And if you could look at the card, what was your marital status on the 29th of April this year?
Married.
Is this your first marriage or are you remarried?
First marriage.
And what is Jane's marital status?
She's married too.
Because it was James's first marriage, our interviewer assumed that it was Jane's first marriage too.
Jane and Jason's relationship to you?
Jane's my wife and Jason's my son.
The interviewer's next mistake was to assume that Jason was Jane's son as well. He didn't bother to ask the question.
And Jane's date of birth, please?
Oh, well, I know this one because she's got exactly the same birthday, but she's 2 years younger.
Oh, that's unusual. So that'll be the 4th of May 1956.
Right.
And Jason's?
23rd of September 1985.
There's lots of people with the same birthdays round here. There's you and your wife, and Mrs. Jones, her daughter at number 100. She's got the same birthday as your son.
A clear breach of confidentiality here. No matter how trivial the information might seem, never discuss anything you've learned about a respondent with anyone else.
And Jason, was he a school child in full-time education on the 29th of April?
Yes, he was.
Yes. Right. If I could ask you to refer back to the card. What did your...
The interviewer forgot to ask the filter question about Jason's term time address. If he lived away at boarding school, no further questions would have been asked.
And Jane's activities, what was she doing?
Working full-time and running the home as well.
And Jason?
Student.
Jason is under 16, which means the economic activity question was not relevant and shouldn't have been asked by our interviewer.
Is there any other living accommodation at this address?
Well, we've got a granny annex, but it's empty at the moment.
Our interviewer should have probed to find out when the granny annex became vacant. There may have been someone living there on census day. The property also needs to be listed on the property listing sheet and a household form completed, even if it was vacant on the 29th of April.
Sometimes my office checks to see if people have been interviewed correctly. Can I take your telephone number just in case they want to speak to you?
I'd rather not, Rex.
It's very easy to get flustered and to try and hurry the interview along. In his haste to finish, the interviewer forgot Justin, the fourth member of the family. The quality of how you complete your paperwork is crucial to the successful input of the survey data. Many forms, including the household, communal establishment and pay forms, will be scanned using the latest computer imaging machines. In order for these to work, the machine must be able to distinguish letters and numbers, and all of these must appear in their correct boxes. Let's look at the forms individually. First, the property listing folder forms. On the property listing sheet, fill in the postcode at the top of the form. Try and list addresses systematically. It'll make them easier to find later. Record the date and time of every visit you make. Use the notes section to record any unusual or specific information, such as, if someone has refused, record the reason why and any other information which may be useful. When an interview has been achieved, tick the appropriate box. Ensure that the interviewer and form numbers from the front cover of the household form are copied across to the property listing sheet. Use your highlighter pen to score through the address on the property listing sheet to show an interview has been achieved. This should be a single diagonal line running from bottom left to top right through the listing entry. Try to remember to keep this tidy to avoid any confusion. If on contact you find that the address or unit of accommodation is non-residential, vacant, or a visitor-only household, tick the appropriate box on the property listing sheet and score through as before. Complete the front and back page areas only on the household form. If you find you need to make an appointment with the householder, complete an appointment card and hand to the respondent. Remember to complete the appointment diary sheet. You should look at this sheet at the start of each day to ensure that appointments are not missed. For each day that you work, you must complete your hours worked log. Please use the 24-hour clock to do this. Record the hours you've worked using decimals and round to the nearest quarter of an hour. Your hours worked log will be checked by your team manager. As you proceed through your 4 weeks of fieldwork, you'll make progress reports to your team manager at various stages. The first of these reports relates to the property listing phase. As you proceed through your 4 weeks of fieldwork, you'll make progress reports to your team manager at various stages. The first of these reports relates to the property listing phase. You should phone your team manager with your progress at the end of the second day. That's Friday, the 25th of May. After phoning in this first report, all future reports will be made in writing and handed to your team manager at the next team meeting. During the census coverage survey fieldwork period, these team meetings will be held every Monday. When completing the household form, you should try to be as neat as possible. Ensure that the correct interviewer and form numbers have been inserted in the top right-hand boxes and that the postcode and address are correct. Also, remember to check that the back page questions are completed. If a continuation form was required, ensure that the appropriate codes have been copied over and that you've completed the continuation boxes on the main form. It's important that the postcode is clearly legible on the front of the form. If you make a mistake, try to correct it within the constrained boxes. If you're unable to do this legibly, then write the postcode in the space to the immediate right-hand side of the boxes. If you make a mistake in the address, interviewer number, form number or name fields, you need to put a squiggle through the mistake and write the correct information above or below or in the next available box. If you've completed a tick box incorrectly, you should black it out and fill in the correct box. Never score through a page on a household form. The information is captured electronically and your line could be interpreted as a tick or a mark in a response category. In order to be paid for your work on the census coverage survey, you'll need to complete various pay forms. These include a mileage log, telephone log, and a claim form detailing fees and expenses. Again, some of these forms will be scanned, so neatness is a top priority. You should record your telephone and travel expenses daily and then transfer the totals to the claim form at the end of the fieldwork period. Check you've inserted your correct payee number before sending the form to your team manager for authorization. If you make a mistake on a pay form, neatly put a horizontal line through it and write the correct information either to the side or above the field and initial the change. Do not use correction fluid on any forms. Please remember to be as neat as possible, especially when filling in scannable forms, as to do otherwise would delay your payment. Your work as interviewers will have a major impact. Your confidence, skill and sheer hard work is valued and very important to the overall success of the census. I'll leave you now with some thoughts and advice from fellow interviewers. Good luck and happy interviewing.
It's an interesting experience meeting members of the public and taking part in something that's a great deal of value to the community.
I found the whole exercise most enjoyable. I do hope to have the opportunity of doing it again.
Everyone was really very pleasant. They understood why I was there and they were happy to take part. I think they felt they'd been selected in some way, so and they understood the importance of it all.
Before I did any of this, I was nervous. I'd have to say, I mean, you never know what people are going to be like when you open the door. You never know who's going to be behind the door. But the more work that I did, the more confident I got. The more interviews I carried out, the more confident I got.
It's a nice job to do. It's a very friendly and interesting job to do.
I really enjoyed the job of interviewer. Before I actually went out, I didn't really know what to expect, with what people would think of someone strange coming and knocking on their doors, but there was a very good reception from most people and it was really enjoyable and worthwhile.